Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for another Facebook Live. I'm Dr. Alexis Conason. I am a clinical psychologist. I'm in practice here in New York City, and I'm also the founder of the Anti-Diet Plan, which is a mindfulness and compassion-based program designed to help people stop dieting and get off the diet, overeating, self-hatred roller coaster and start eating in ways that feel more attuned with your body so you can move on with your life and do all of the wonderful, amazing things that you want to do that we don't have time to do when we're consumed and preoccupied with dieting. So if you want to learn more about my program, you can do so on my website and sign up for my free 30-day introductory course. That's at drconason.com. And I'm also going to be launching a online program that I'm really excited about, and you can sign up for my newsletter to get special updates and exclusive bonuses when that group starts, hopefully in September, just as everyone is getting ready to go back to school. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's back to school season. We see all the ads on TV, all the sales in the stores, and for a lot of parents and kids, we've actually gone back to school already. School just seems to be starting earlier and earlier each year. And the back to school season is a time of year that I think can bring up a lot of difficult feelings for people, especially people who struggle with issues around food and body image and not feeling good enough about themselves, and we tend to compare ourselves with other people, and it can just bring up a lot of really uncomfortable feelings. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about that today. If you're here joining me live, I would love to know you're here. Feel free to say hi, and if you want to, also let me know if you are going back to school, if you have a kid that's going back to school, or if you're just like a human being existing in our culture being bombarded by all of this back to school messaging, which, you know, makes us think about the new year and new starts and new transformations, and actually is like, hi Judy, it's actually a lot like New Year's, I think, you know, where we're told that we need to, you know, like this is our chance now to start everything different. Everything's going to be different. Our whole lives are going to be different. This is the year. And this topic came about when I was talking to my assistant, Ashley, who's wonderful, and we were talking about what we should write about for our newsletter this week. And I said, well, it is back to school season, but I know, you know, not all the people on my email list have kids, and most of the people on my email list aren't actually going back to school themselves, because I tend to work with a lot of people who are not school age. I don't work with kids. And I was thinking, like, is this relevant? And I realized it is. It's super relevant, I think, to all of us, because we're all kind of get this like fall vibe, and it can bring up, like I said, a lot of these feelings of transformation, of the need to change, this sense of new beginnings, and for a lot of us brings up feelings of not being good enough. And I was talking to Ashley, and we both had memories of like what it was like for ourselves going back to school, and we could so vividly remember, each of us, that sense of both like excitement and fantasy of, you know, I'm going to go back to school and everything's going to be different. This is going to be the year that I'm popular, or that the cool kids don't pick on me, or that, you know, that I've lost so much weight that no one's going to recognize me. You know, there's like all these fantasies that come up, and these things are perpetuated by our culture, of course. There's, you know, a lot around, even, I remember, I don't know if this still exists, but like when I was growing up, we had all the teen magazines, and there'd be a lot of focus on what to wear for the first day back at school, how to make that, you know, big first impression. And there's a new TV show coming out on Netflix called Insatiable that is kind of about exactly this fantasy. It's about, from what I understand, I haven't actually watched the show, but from what I understand, it's about a young woman who loses a tremendous amount of weight over summer vacation and goes back to school and teaches all of her bullies a lesson. And it, really, perpetuates fat shaming, weight bias, discriminatory messages. It kind of compels this narrative of like, if we just can lose weight and change ourselves, everything's going to be better. And of course, that's not true. So I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about 3 tips that I have to help you start the back to school season feeling the best that you can. And these tips, I think, are applicable for anyone, whether or not you're going back to school yourself, whether you have a kid that's going back to school, or you're just, even like returning back to the office after a few weeks summer vacation, or you're just existing in this vibe of back to school transformations, new year, new you, whole kind of hoopla that goes on right now. So, and I do want to say that I think that there's a big element of this is not just kids going back to school, but parents, and kind of the competition and comparisons that parents, that go through with each other, that, about who went on the nicest summer vacation, or who looks the best after the summer. So I don't think that this is exclusive at all to children. I just want to make that really clear. A lot of the times the comparison game amongst the parents is a lot more intense and competitive and severe. So the first tip that I have is to surround yourself with people who share a similar anti-dieting, body compassion, self-acceptance perspective. Or if that's not possible, to at least set your limits with people who focus on weight loss, with people who just kind of make you feel like really lousy about yourself, and limit the time that you spend with those people. So I know that this can feel scary, especially if you're like, well, like that's my group of friends. My group of friends are all people who tend to talk a lot about weight loss and talk a lot about their body and feeling dissatisfied about their body. And if you notice that you do leave those conversations feeling kind of lousy about yourself, I think there's a few things you can do. It doesn't mean you have to completely ditch this friend group if it's a group of friends that you want to stay connected with. However, you might want to consider limiting your time with them and seeking out other friends who will ultimately be more supportive of you in your endeavors, in your journey towards body acceptance and self-compassion, and kind of move away from that weight loss focus. We can also try to set boundaries with those friends who are talking about weight loss all the time, and just kind of gently say, like, I'm sorry to hear that you're struggling with not liking your body. I'm really on this journey to try to feel better about myself, and talking about weight loss doesn't help me on that. Do you mind if we just kind of, put a pause on the weight loss conversation, at least until I'm not around? Often, I think these conversations have become so normalized that people don't even realize what we're doing. So just pointing out like, hey, like we're talking pretty harshly about ourselves, and that doesn't feel good for me, and I don't really like to hear you talk so badly about yourself, so maybe we can shift the conversation a little bit. I think that's one great way to deal with those friends. But if your friends are just going to keep coming back, again and again and again to weight loss, you might want to consider setting some boundaries or limits on how much time you spend with them. And also, again, trying to seek out new friends. And I think a great way is to try to find body positive communities locally to where you are. And some of that can be done online, just trying to like connect with people who are body positive who, on social media. And if you find that they're local to you, see if there's any like meetup groups or anything like that going on. But however you can, try to, find each other so that you can support each other on this body positivity journey, because it's hard. And being surrounded by weight loss talk, and if that's all that we hear, like that's really hard. So I think we have to find some way to limit that. Same goes with friends that tend to be very competitive, or comparisons about body or dieting, or really about anything. Kind of, if you're hanging out with people that you find make you feel lousy about yourself, I think that's something to really think about, and to try to seek out other types of relationships and friendships. So that's my first tip. My next tip is to try to really stay away from this fantasy of transformation. And I think that this is an especially important one, not just for all of us who are listening, but especially for any moms or dads who might be listening, who might have kids that are struggling with this kind of transformation. Like, exactly that idea that I talked about in the beginning, where we feel, okay, this is the year. I'm going to go back to school, and like this year, everything is going to be different. It's not. Like, the first day of school is just another day. It's not our first chance to make an impression. It's not our last chance to make an impression. It's just a day that we're starting something new. But I think as much as we can try to stay in the present and try to accept and feel good enough about ourselves as we are, and when we notice the fantasies going on, saying, what's really going on there? Like, if I am so fixated on having that perfect outfit to show up at the first day of school, again, whether you're, going back to school yourself, or you're a parent, or even going, the first day back at work after a vacation, if we find ourselves so fixated on trying to find that perfect thing so that, we can feel good enough about ourselves, I think it's, a signal that something's going on, that we don't feel good enough about ourselves now. And that's the place to work on, because no outfit, no amount of weight loss, no amount of anything is going to heal that internal wound that makes us feel not good enough. That's something that we need to work on within ourselves, inside of ourselves. And I think therapy is really great for that. Obviously, as a therapist, I'm a big proponent of psychotherapy. And I think that therapy, especially from a health at every size or weight inclusive therapist, who understands about eating disorders and disordered eating, and understands about body image, and focuses a lot on self-compassion and how to heal your relationship with yourself, that can be, that's transformative. It's not about the first day of school outfit. It's about doing that deeper work on yourself that really leads to long-lasting, meaningful changes. So, as much as we can, just try to catch yourself if you are having those fantasies, or if you find your children engaging in those kinds of fantasies, and think about what's really going on, and try to address those deeper issues, which are obviously like a little more complicated. They're a little stickier to get to than just like finding the perfect back to school outfit. But the perfect outfit is never just about the outfit. It's about how we want to feel about ourselves, and that comes from within. So my third tip is just to hold in mind that this can be a difficult time for people, and to try to surround yourself with as many body positive, health at every size, intuitive eating resources as you possibly can. So some of my favorites are Virgie Tovar just came out with a new book, You Have the Right to Remain Fat. I cannot wait to start reading it. So I definitely recommend that. Jess Baker's book, Land Whale, is excellent. I really recommend that as well. Those are both books, but I've been a huge fan of Audible, of listening to books. I don't know if anyone else has gotten into that as well, but I find that I spend so much time kind of, running around, and when I'm not running around, it's I just find that I don't have as much time to sit down with a book and actually read as I would like to, but that I really enjoy listening to books. So that's a great option if anyone is, kind of thinking like, oh, when am I going to ever read a book? We can listen to a book as well. And listening to podcasts. Two of my favorites right now are Christy Harrison's Food Psych podcast. She's an anti-diet dietitian based out of Brooklyn, and she has just a really incredible podcast. And then Rebecca Scritchfield's podcast, Body Kindness. She has had some amazing guests recently. I just listened to her interview with Emily Nagoski, I think I'm saying her name correctly, the author of Come As You Are, who's a sex educator and kind of looking at the intersection between body image and sexuality and women's, the ways that we forbid pleasure on ourselves. So anyway, I've been a big fan of her podcast. I think she has some really awesome stuff on there. So those are two great resources, as well as just filling your social media feed. I know I've talked about this before, but I think that we have so little control over so much of what we see in the media. Social media is one area where we do have control. And if you're finding me on social media, I'm so happy that you've found your way here to my Facebook page. But social media has become really a hub for body positivity and health at every size and intuitive eating. And it's just a wonderful resource. It's like one place that we have more control, that we can just hit that like unfollow button to, all of those accounts that make us feel kind of lousy about ourselves, that bring up the comparisons or that are weight focused. And we can completely fill our feed with health at every size, mindful eating, compassion-based, size diversity, weight inclusive accounts. And there's something that I think is just really powerful, that if we do use social media, that we are seeing that intentionally every day, every time we look at our feed. So if anyone's interested in accounts, you can check out my feed and look at who I follow, because I am proud to say I follow, I would say like 90% weight inclusive, health at every size, intuitive eating, body positive accounts. And almost all of the people that I follow, not everyone, but I'd say like probably pretty close to 90% of them are just posting like awesome radical messages. So I open up my Instagram feed. I'm at the Anti-Diet Plan if anyone wants to do this, and check out who I'm following. And I open up my social media feed and it's like all these wonderful messages and pictures of different body types and different sizes and, different types of people posting just the most beautiful photographs and quotes and inspiration. And it's a really positive experience. And for a lot of people, social media isn't. Social media can feel really negative, and there's some research even that it can increase eating disorder symptoms, especially if we're following accounts that are kind of like health focused, weight loss focused. That stuff all tends to feel really lousy. So cleanse out your account, get rid of any kind of social media accounts that like aren't making you feel good, and fill up your account with people that are inspiring you. And if you want ideas again on how to do that, you can check out my Instagram feed at the Anti-Diet Plan, and I think there's a little button there that you can just check out who I'm following, and like 90% of them, not everyone, I'll give that disclaimer, but 90% are probably body positive focused accounts. So those are my 3 tips to start the school year with a body positive attitude. Just to recap my I'm going to look at my little cheat sheet here. Just to recap, my first tip was to surround yourself with peers who support your way of life in terms of not focusing on weight, trying to be more compassionate towards ourselves, more accepting about ourselves. Obviously, we have friends from all different walks of life, and that's wonderful. But if you do have friends that are focusing on weight loss and making you feel lousy about yourself, think about how you can set boundaries around that. Number 2, don't fall into the post-summer body transformation fantasy. If you find yourself or your kids are really getting very preoccupied preoccupied with like, this year everything's going to be different, I'm going to change everything. Try to address what's really going on, which is, why does anything need to change? You know, how can we feel good enough about ourselves right now at this moment that everything is okay just the way that it is? And when we have these deep feelings of not being worthwhile or not being valuable, or feeling that our value is only, you know, tied to our weight or what we look like, then I definitely recommend seeking out some professional help, mostly in the form of psychotherapy. And the third tip is to just surround yourself with body positivity during what can be a difficult time for many people. And that can be books, podcasts, and social media. So I hope you'll follow my 3 tips. And the final tip for going back to school with a body positive attitude is to check out my brand new The Anti-Diet Plan signature online course. So I know you guys have heard me mention this a few times. If you're a regular listener, I have been just like busting my butt all summer working on this program that I think is going to be so amazing. I've been leading a mindfulness-based program to help people who are struggling with overeating in person at my practice in Manhattan for about the last 10 years. And I've really been feeling like, you know, I've spent a lot of time and energy, and people seem to really get a lot out of this program. That I wanted to make it available to people outside of just the immediate, you know, New York City area, and outside of just, you know, like the handful of people that I'm able to personally you know, even fit in my office. I know we were just looking at a wall in my office, and I have a fairly large office, but like really we can't fit more than 10 people or so here. So I'm taking the program that I developed online, and I'm so excited about it because I think it's just going to open up these tools about how to get off the dieting roller coaster, how to eat with more compassion, how to live with more compassion towards ourselves, because at the end of the day, it's really not just about changing our relationship with food, although that's important. It's really about changing our relationship with ourselves. And I hope that this course is going to help us do that. And I'm going to be having some exclusive, so I'm doing kind of like a soft launch. I'm hoping it's going to be in September, right along with the back to school season. And I'm just going to be launching it to people who are following me on social media and on my email list, because I want kind of a smaller group, because we're going to have some special bonuses that are going to be, have to be somewhat limited, not necessarily to the 10 people who can fit in my office, but it will be a little bit, you know, limited for the first go around. So I am, you know, wanting to give priority to the people who have been involved with my work, and you will get an email about that in the next, hopefully the next few weeks. We're really getting close to finishing everything up. I'm super excited. It's going to cover a whole range of different topics, including mindfulness meditation, how to meditate, how to eat mindfully, how to stop dieting, why diet doesn't work. We get into some of the science. And then really, like, my favorite part is how to live a life that's full of pleasure and joy and meaning. That's so far beyond just, you know, defining our whole world by what we're eating and what we weigh. So I'm really excited about this. If you haven't signed up for the free course, I hope you'll do that. That will give you a little taster of what the Anti-Diet Plan program is about. And then you'll get notified sometime in the next few weeks for some really exciting news on how to sign up for the full program, the full signature. It's going to be a 6-week program. So I'm really excited about that. I hope that you guys will all consider that as a resource in the fall kind of season, as you know, we can just deal with some of the challenges of going back to school and the changing weather and the changing wardrobe and all of that stuff. So Anyways, thank you all for joining me today for another Facebook Live. If there's anything that you want to hear about, feel free to drop me a note. I'd love to hear from you. You can email me, info@drconason.com. You can contact me directly through my website, which is drconason.com. You can reach out on social media. On Facebook, Alexis Conason Psy.D. I'm on Twitter @Conason Psy.D. I am on Instagram @The Anti-Diet Plan. In this modern day and age, there is infinite ways to find me. So I hope you will, and I hope you'll let me know if there's any topics that you're interested in hearing about on upcoming Facebook Lives. I will let you know that we are not going to be doing a live next week. I'm going to be taking some time off just to enjoy the last little bit of the warm days of summer, and I will be back to join you the week after Labor Day. So I hope everyone has a wonderful Labor Day holiday and a good start to your back to school season if you're going back to school, and I will look forward to connecting with you shortly. Okay, take care. See you next time.